And I thank you for acknowledging our most worshipful Grand Master, Rafi Timonian, on his happy birthday today.
Yes, indeed.
Right. The global pandemic has begun to ease off, leaving many thousands dead, and the economy in tatters, and civil unrest and racist underpinnings breaks out across this country, in particular the United States. And that was in 1919. They called it the Red Summer. So writes the author, Walt Woodward, a Connecticut state historian. In the fourth Masonic Town Hall, I alluded to the idea that with a restart, we have never been here before. A follow-on conversation made me realize my error. As we are effectively in the centenary of the Spanish flu, the Great Depression and socioeconomic restart that followed, we have been here before. The Grand Lodge of New York's War and Relief Administration Committee under the then Grand Master, the Most Worshipful Brother William S. Farmer, aimed to aid the brothers and or their sons who were sick from influenza or wounded from the war, with volunteers frequently visiting hospitals to search and aid the brothers and or their sons in need and supporting hospitals in their administration until the pressure relaxed so that schools, churches, and theaters were reopened. The influenza was mentioned several times in the Grand Lodge proceedings during the years of 1918 to 1920 by the Right Worshipful Brother William J. Wiley and Right Worshipful Brother Horace W. Smith. The Grand Lecturer at the time reported that the influenza had interfered with these itineraries, causing postponement and cancellation of many events. Similar accounts are shared by other Grand Lodges and their records. As we continue through this socioeconomic crisis, let us celebrate the lives and humanity of those who have succumbed to this pandemic and those they left behind. As the sun rolling through the sapphire sky keeps great and small on the endless bound, this is the 5th International Masonic Town Hall, and this is Brigham University's vocal. Just a few statistics. We've got about 8 countries, including the United States, Canada, South Africa, India, Lebanon, Angola, Bulgaria, Ecuador, 8 US states, 15 Grand Lodges, 11 time zones, had 53 confirmed attendees, 12 Most Worshipful Brethren, 8 Right Worshipful Brethren. Right, Worshipful Brother Myers, can you kindly introduce yourself?
Greetings, brothers, and welcome to our International Town Hall. I'm Arthur Myers. I'm a Worshipful Master of Guarding Light Olympia Lodge number 808 in Baldwin, New York. I'm also a 32nd degree Mason, having been the past Trispotent Master at the Scottish Rite Valley of Rockville Center, New York. And I'm also a Shriner, a noble at Kismet Shrine, Hicksville, New York. And that's what I am, and who I am, you'll find that as you get to know me more. So have a great day, stay safe and healthy, and I'll pass the torch now over to Worshipful Baron.
Thank you, Brother Myers, Worshipful Brother Myers. I'm, of course, the Worshipful Brother Edward Keith Barron, presiding master of Lodge Cape Town, number 138 on the roll of Grand Lodge of South Africa, who are your hosts here today. I've simplified the rules, and I've simply asked that you kindly ensure that your microphone is on mute if you are not speaking. I've just made a slight change to the program today. There's quite a number of Grand Lodges present, so we've got about 8 or 9 of them that will revert to the topics, and then I've left the balance of them, including the Scottish Rite as well as the Royal Arch at the back end, to respond to one or all of the topics that are being discussed here today. Brethren, I'll now read the opening inclination. Sign of reverence. Great Architect of the universe, we thank you for your grace and favor in trying and unprecedented times, for protecting us from this pandemic and its socioeconomic impact. We pray that the balance of the equilibrium will be restored and that your wisdom be upon those who are designated to navigate society through these turbulent waters, and that the families and communities impacted find comfort in you and each other. We pray that you bestow the manifold blessings from your inexhaustible stall upon us all as we gather in your name. We pray for your guidance, that our discussions will be to the benefit of Freemasonry in general, and to the honor and glory of your holy name. So to be. It's been an interesting few weeks, with infections increasing rapidly worldwide. We know that the US death toll is now more than 180,000. We know that South Africa's crossed the 500,000 infection mark, and that India certainly crossed the 2 million mark. With a repatriation flight that crashed in southern India, leaving 16 dead and 123 injured on August 7th. On August 4th, Lebanon, we know, suffered its biggest non-wartime explosion with a chemical accident in Beirut harbor. 158 people dead, more than 6,000 injured, tens of thousands displaced by the blast zone, followed by the entire government's resignation. As has become customary during the town hall, I would like to call on the Most Worshipful Brother Gordon Fordeau, the Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Manitoba, to call for a minute of silence as we pray for Beirut and those who have passed away and the families impacted by this pandemic, and then to declare the 5th International Masonic Town Hall opened. Most Worshipful Brother Gordon Fordeau.
Thank you, Brother Edmund. Brethren, again, greetings, and it's nice to see you all. We live in very trying times, and unfortunately, it's difficult to see all the things that are happening right now. But one of the things that and as Brother Edgar said before, we've seen this before, but one of the things we haven't seen at this point in time is the fact that 20 years ago, we wouldn't be able to have these discussions like we are now. And it's important that we keep this up and remember and honor those people that have succumbed to the difficulties that have happened over the last year. This time. So I'm going to ask you to bow your heads and please take a moment of silence for all the people who are suffering at this point in time. Thank you, brethren.
And with that, you declare the town hall open.
Yes, and I declare the 5th International Town Hall open.
Thank you, Most Worshipful Brother Fordeau. And now we wish to acknowledge the Grand Lodges participating, the Grand Lodge of South Africa, including the Provincial Grand Lodges of the Southern, Northern, and Eastern Cape Division, the Grand Lodge of New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Maine, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Arizona. Grand Lodge of Manitoba, Grand Lodge of India, Grand Lodge of Lebanon, Ecuador, Bulgaria, and the District Grand Lodge of Lebanon and Syria. The General Grand Chapter of the Royal Lodge Masons International and the Ancient Accepted Scottish Rite Northern Masonic Jurisdiction, as well as that of South Africa. The senior brethren among us, Most Worshipful Brother William Sardone, Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of the State of New York, Most Worshipful Brother Gregory J. Scott, Grand Master of New Jersey, Most Worshipful Brother Gordon Fordeau, Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Manitoba, the Most Worshipful Brother Rafi H. Demonian, Grand Master and Grand Lodge of the Free and Accepted Masons of Lebanon, Most Worshipful Brother Richard Nadeau, Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Maine, Most Worshipful Brother Richard Maggio, Grand Master, Grand Lodge of Massachusetts, Most Worshipful Brother Gary S. Kaufman, Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Rhode Island, Most Worshipful Brother Stuart Corso, Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Vermont, the illustrious Brother David A. Gladley, Southern Grand Commander, 33rd degree Southern Scottish Rite Northern Masonic Jurisdiction, Most illustrious Brother Mahmoud Patel, Southern Grand Inspector General, Southern Region, 33rd degree for South Africa. Most excellent Brother Edmund D. Harrison, General Grand Chapter Royal Lodge Masons International. Most worshipful Brother Jeff Edwards, OSM, Past Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of South Africa. Most worshipful Brother William J. Thomas, the Past Grand Master of the State of New York. Most worshipful Brother Roger Quintana, Past Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of New Jersey. Most worshipful Brother Plamen Mateev, Past Grand Master of Bulgaria. Right Worshipful Brother John Smith, OSM, MSA, the Acting Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of South Africa. Right Worshipful Brother Richard Kessler, Deputy Grand Master, Grand Lodge of New York. Right Worshipful Brother Randy Yeager, Deputy Grand Master, Grand Lodge of Arizona. Right Worshipful Brother Bill Bowman, Deputy Grand Master, Grand Lodge of Connecticut. Right Worshipful Brother Tarek Issa, District Grand Master, District Grand Lodge of Lebanon and Syria. Right Worshipful Brother Thomas William Hardiman, the Provincial Grand Master of the Southern Division, Grand Lodge of South Africa. Right Worshipful Brother Keith Hutton, Provincial Grand Master, Eastern Cape Division, Grand Lodge of South Africa. The Right Worshipful Brother Vishwanathan Ganesan, Past Grand Warden of Grand Lodge of India. For the rest of us, all protocols are observed. Brethren, we will now have a round of 4 questions, which the 8 Grand Lodges of will respond to, and in the closing feedback, the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts, Scottish Rite, Royal Arch, will have an opportunity for general comment to all 4 questions. Brother Myers, the first question is yours.
Okay, brothers. The first question concerns Grand Communications and AGM's voting and installations in the time of COVID-19. With the CDC guidelines and limitations, how do we organize Grand Communications annual grand meetings safely in person with particular focus on voting and installation of new officers? Look for a response from the Grand Lodge of New Jersey first.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Worshipful Brother Barron, for putting this together again. Good morning, my brothers all. So in New Jersey, our term of office here usually runs from April to April. And coming into March, 11 months into my term, we were going full speed ahead, and then the pandemic hit. So my term of office was extended until November. So as November is quickly approaching here in New Jersey, we just made the decision not to go to Atlantic City for our annual communication because of the constraints and restrictions that the government has placed upon us. And we're going to have it at our fellowship center in Burlington, where we could hold about 1,000 people in our hall. And our restrictions in New Jersey now are 25. So, we're not going to get near 1,000. So, and then outside 500. Our annual communication usually ranges participants between 800 and 1,000 brethren. So what we're going to do this year, come November 9th, will hopefully restrictions will ease a little bit. We're going to have it at our fellowship center and then stream it live outside to a tent that could hold approximately 300 or 400 people. So at social distancing. And so it's quite a big tent. So that's how we're going to deal with our annual communication. Voting in New Jersey, we've been, I think we're very democratic, and our voting base for elections is close to 3,000 members. And that's made up of past masters, the sitting master, and the wardens. So we do have a very big voting base in New Jersey. And for the past 10 years, we've been doing it both online, electronically, and on site at the convention center. And sometimes we did have some satellites, but this year we will continue. We have pre-registered all of our voting members. So a week before our election of Grand Lodge, we will have a password sent out to every member, and they could vote either electronically, or if they wish, come down to our convention in Burlington and do it on site. This has been very popular, especially in this COVID situation, where actually I don't have any idea how many brethren want to come out and be with a large crowd come November, but we will see. So we are encouraging all of our members to sign up, acknowledge their ballot, and we will be sending passwords out to them so that everyone can vote electronically. And out of the 3,000 voting members, we usually have about a third that participate. So, that's quite a lot. That's the way we're going to do it here in New Jersey. Thank you.
Thank you, Grandmaster.
Thank you, Most Worshipful Scott. If we could call on Manitoba for their response.
Yes. Thank you, Arthur. Greetings, brethren. It's all nice. It's so nice to see all of you. In Manitoba, we have a couple of issues. Well, we had to our grand communication and the installation of officers happens in the first weekend, the first Friday, Saturday of June, and it became apparent within the beginning of May that we were not going to be able to do that. So what we have done is we many of the activities that such as constitutional and bylaw regulations have been postponed to next year's AGM. There weren't that many this year at this point that were needed to be dealt with for immediacy at this point, so we have done that. Unfortunately, the only person who was installed at the time was myself, and through a small ceremony. The rest of the officers, line officers, were declared. I declared them appointed into the positions or claimed at this time, except for the position of the junior grand warden, which was interesting because we actually had an election that occurred at this point in time, which brought us into a new era within Manitoba. We've always done the voting at the annual communication and never had an opportunity if you attend, but you could not vote. This year we used the program election body to conduct a full election of everybody within the jurisdiction, and including our internet lodge, to have the opportunity to vote for the junior grand warden. So, and it'll probably be the way of the future dealing with the election of officers in the future. We'll open that ballot through election buddy. The reason being is we went from a 20% increase in our usual attendance of voting at the communication to over a third people voting for the position of grand warden and the junior grand warden. And everybody had the opportunity to vote for that, which, if you don't know about our Manitoba, it's a very long and narrow province, and there's lots of territory where our northern lodges would not be able to attend without coming in to traveling a great distance to get there. So I thought it would be quite successful, and we've had some changes, and we might be conducting, depending upon the situation and what's allowed for us. We're only allowed 50 people in a meeting hall at this point in time, and in some areas it's only 10 people, and only 75 outside. So we're trying to figure out a way if we have to conduct any of the business still, such as the approval of the budget or that process. Although it's been approved by a board of general purposes, we usually take it to the membership for final approval. But we're trying to see if we can do that through Zoom and other opportunities at this point in time. And that's what's going on in Manitoba.
Thank you, Most Worshipful Fordo. And now if we could have our response from the Grand Lodge of South Africa.
Good morning, brethren. Good afternoon and good evening. Thank you very much again to Worshipful Brother Barron and Worshipful Brother Myers for putting together this 5th Town Hall, International Town Hall, and for inviting us. So, brethren, in June, I assumed the leadership of the Grand Lodge of South Africa. And in South Africa, the government has determined 5 phases of lockdown, the 5th being the most stringent and the 1st being the least stringent. We are now in phase 2, but that still prevents any lodge meetings. And in fact, we don't fall under any of the categories that they have allowed, for example, funerals, religious gatherings, weddings, etc. And we certainly can't get together as a family, although we are a family, and even if we could, we wouldn't be allowed more than 10 brethren. So to get rid of the uncertainty, we decided to have our annual meeting, and we had it last Saturday. And it was a very successful meeting. It's the very first time that we've had it online. Our Grand Secretary put in an enormous amount of work. And as far as the voting is concerned, we sent out, or rather he sent out notices to all our members at least 2 weeks before the time. And a week before the meeting, he and our chairman of our technology committee put together a ballot paper, and all the brethren that were entitled to vote received a ballot paper. And we had a 2/3 return, which is probably the best we've ever had. And it worked extremely well. And the results, we had 3 or 4 scrutineers. The results were checked. And at the annual meeting, we went through the agenda. And when we got to the voting section, he reported on the vote. The scrutineers confirmed the vote, and everyone was very happy. As far as the appointment of officers are concerned, in terms of our constitution, I'm entitled to appoint the officers at the annual meeting, which I then did. They immediately assumed their responsibility. And we hope that within a month or two, our restrictions will be of such a nature that we will be able to have my installation, at which time we will then formally obligate and invest our officers. So that's what we've been having to do in South Africa, and so far it's worked very well. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Most Worshipful Smith, and stay safe and healthy. If we can now call on the Grand Lodge of India for their response.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my brethren. Thank you, Brother Edgar and Arthur Mayers, for organizing this. Extremely pleasurable to be here once again. I'm sorry I missed out last month because of other commitments. Answering this question on the Grand Festival, well, the Grand Lodge of India has the change of a Grand Master once every 3 years. The current incumbent is finishing his office only the next year, that is 2021. So essentially the annual communication ends up being an effort in changing the other officers, and that means our deputy and an assistant, we will be getting new ones, and so will all the other officers of the Grand Lodge. In view of this COVID-19, what we planned is that we will have a hybrid meeting. We will have a physical meeting with the least number of attendants at a place called Nagpur, which is in the central part of India. But we do not expect too many people to come in because most of our people happen to be over the age of 60, and it would be difficult and it would be dangerous for most of them to travel. So we expect that they would participate virtually. Some essential officers and the deputy and assistant Grand Master who need to undertake an obligation would be physically present, the new ones who are coming in. And what we plan is most items that are lined up for voting this year are fairly simple and straightforward and rudimentary administrative stuff, so we do not see too much of a problem. We plan to use the hybrid platform to do the voting too. Of all the eligible people. The scrutineers have already been appointed, and we believe that we will have a fairly safe meeting. And should positions improve, we will have a larger attendance. Otherwise, we might have to find some way of reaching out refreshments to people who are attending virtually. That might be the challenge.
Thank you. Thank you, Right Worshipful Gunnason.
Thank you.
And if we could call on the Grand Lodge of Bulgaria for your response.
Thank you, Brother Myers. The Grand Lodge of Ancient, Free and Accepted Masons of Bulgaria is currently preparing for 2 events: the General Assembly and the biannual communication, according to Constitution. Selection and inauguration process will be on the agenda of both cases. The third International Masonic Conference in Sofia at the end of September this year is also due to take place. Both issues, such as voting and installation of officers, will be dealt with. Several experiments have been done to automate the remote voting process. There is no final solution despite the successful implementation of the remote voting process. We are currently working on the process of inauguration and appointment, and to what extent we can minimize choreographics part. That's what we're working on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Most Worshipful Mateev. And if I could call on the Grand Lodge of Lebanon for their reply.
Worshipful Myers, Worshipful Baron, thank you so much for organizing this 5th International Masonic Town Hall. Before I address that issue, I would like 30 seconds of your time. It's always in times of trouble when families come together. On the 4th of August, a few weeks ago, Lebanon experienced and to the best of my knowledge, survived a huge explosion, fourth in its magnitude in the modern history of the world, 6.5 megaton of a nuclear weapon size. That was the explosion. 40% of our capital is totally destroyed. It's amazing that we only have less than 200 people dead. If this had happened at 5 o'clock in the evening, we would have had thousands of people, because that's when all the people are on the road. It happened at 6:08. I'm saying this because I'm very proud to be part of this huge family, and I would like through this panel to thank all the grandmasters, Right for Shuffle brothers, my brothers from all around the world who either called, emailed, sent messages, letters, you name it. So it made me feel that Lebanon was not left alone. Lebanon had a huge family all around the world. And I would like to thank each and every one of the grandmasters. Some of you are present here. Well, most of us don't. I really appreciate your solidarity and your brotherhood. And almost every Grand Lodge in Europe, South Africa, everywhere, they actually were standing by. And most importantly, I would like to thank my brothers who, from the first minute, gathered their forces and went down on the street to help the people in need, whether it was with a bottle of water, a sandwich, or anything, all the way to now. We are actually getting heavily engaged in the construction process of putting these people back. Winter is coming soon, and like I said, 40% of our capital is beyond being anything close to being called a home. So we have walls that are down, we have no windows, no doors, no nothing, and that's what we're working on. So I don't want to take a lot of your time, but I wanted to acknowledge all the help and our sense of pride of being part of this huge Masonic family. Coming back to our topic, last year, our annual communication is in the last week of October. So last year it was unanimously discussed and voted in our Grand Lodge that the current term of the officers that are the founding members of the Grand Lodge of Lebanon to be 5 years. So we don't have any elections this year. The plan is to have a physical meeting in Beirut, Lebanon, God willing, if things are possible. We have a few things to discuss, few decisions to make, but no elections, no installations, no nothing like that. And the thing is, if right now Lebanon experienced in the last couple of weeks a raise in the COVID cases, so the government went back on a lockdown. We are currently on the first week of a 14-day lockdown. So we don't really know what's going to happen. We're going to play it by ear. Come the end of September, if we don't have anything new. The plan is for us to hold the meeting naturally with the biggest place possible. Definitely not in one of our lodges. We're going to have to get a bigger place so we can have a maximum amount of people, respecting social distancing and whatnot. If not, we will have a Zoom meeting, and we'll see how it goes. So there is no major decision that is taken as of yet. Thank you so much.
Thank you, most worshipful Rafi, and know that we're all here with you. Terrible.
Thank you. Thank you.
We call on the Grand Lodge of New York, most worshipful Sardon.
Thank you very much for inviting me and allowing me to have a platform again to speak to everybody. I enjoy being with all of you. It's no secret that our annual communication was supposed to be in May, and when this whole thing started, it crept up on us to the point where it went, you could only have 500 together, down to 100, down to 200, down to 50, down to 10, down to none. So it was declared that we would not have our annual communication in May of 2020 and just extended out 1 year to May of 2021. So nobody can forecast what's going to happen in May of 2021. I mean, we're looking at the college situations, looking at the school situations, and everybody is revamping how they're doing 1 and 2 days into gathering together. But what I've done is I have looked, and I am taking the convocation of Grand Lodge of New York out of New York City, And I'm looking at resorts where I'm going to take over the entire resort, and we can socially distance about 1,000 people. Now, we normally have about 2,000 people that come, but I'm going to limit it to just the voting delegates. And our voting delegate system is weird. It's different than anybody else. It's not one-on-one. It's a weighted system. So if a lodge has a certain amount of members, they get a certain amount of votes. So it isn't a case of just one person coming in and giving a vote. Everybody has to have a certain weight attached to them. So it's a little bit of a difficult system, but it has worked and it can do that. So the idea is I'm going to have a socially distant Grand Lodge session in May of 2021 at a resort out of New York City. There's another reason to come out of New York City. There has been some unrest in some of the larger cities, and the bottom portion of Manhattan was virtually destroyed in the last peaceful protests that took place. And we can't take that chance again to put our members in the middle of that right now. So we're moving it out, and let's say that the governor and the health authorities come back and say, we cannot get together because of COVID or whatever, and we cannot have our session, then I'm going to adjourn it. And then I'm going to go to a broadcast situation where I have 6 locations around the state, and I will do a live broadcast. Each room will be tiled. It will be secure. And we've already figured out how the voting can take place. And as far as the installation goes, it's not as important as the election of our officers themselves. We can install somebody in the back seat of a car as long as they put their hands on a Bible and swear to stuff. And I'm not worried about the installation portion of it. I'm worried about having our members get together where each person has the opportunity to vote for the next session of individuals to lead this jurisdiction.
Thank you. Thank you, Most Worshipful Chardon.
Thank you, Graham.
And if we can now call on the Grand Lodge of Maine for your response.
Well, brethren, all protocol having been established, it's nice to be here with all of you. No different than anyone else, we find ourselves in a very fluid situation where our local, state, and federal governments have dictated and established some guidelines on how we can and cannot meet. Our annual communication usually occurs in the first week of May. And this year was significantly unusual because we had stepped forward into the electronic age with electronic voting and found ourselves returning paper ballots. What we did this year is we mailed a paper ballot to all 700 plus voting members with a deadline for them to be returned to the Grand Lodge office, and at that time they were tallied. And so, like Most Worshipful Chardon mentioned, it's not the pomp and circumstance of the installation that's the important thing. It's actually the secure voting and continuation of the work we do. We found ourselves easily going through the election with the paper ballots. We secured them by putting the Grand Lodge's raised seal on the ballots. That way, when they were returned, we knew that they came directly from the Grand Lodge office, and it went pretty well. As of right now, we are permitted to have 50 people in attendance inside and 100 people outside. It has yet to be seen if we will be able to finish up the business of the last annual communication, let alone continue with the business of the next communication in 2021. But like everybody else, we find ourselves being challenged. And at the same time, we find ourselves becoming much more creative on how that we can continue to move forward in a positive direction, even though we find ourselves in a time that is unprecedented for us. So with that being said, that's all I have at the moment. Thank you, Edgar.
Thank you, Most Worshipful Nadeau. And at this point, I will pass it back to Worshipful Baron.
Thank you, Worshipful Mars. Brethren, the topic is a leadership vacuum due to COVID-19 and the changing of the guard, which kind of leads on from the first question. But with senior brethren being most vulnerable, I have certainly heard and in lots of conversations, a lot of brethren that are saying that they're too old, they're too concerned about infection, they're probably not going to come back to lodge over the next few months, possibly even a year or two. A lot of the knowledge about what we do and why we do it within the lodge lies within the older brethren themselves. And so the question is, do we anticipate a leadership vacuum for the foreseeable future? And how are we preparing new leaders, particularly in the changing of the guard as presiding masters, for that possible vacuum? Can I get a response from the Grand Lodge of New Jersey?
Well, this year, 2019, we were doing very well as far as membership was concerned, and we were almost on the verge of turning the corner and stopping the slide that we were all experiencing. Our leadership vacuum and how do we prepare our new leaders is very challenging. And I'm sure it's a very challenging position for all of us. But I'm very thankful to the Scottish Rite and the Shrine for their Path Forward program and all the referrals that they've been sending the Grand Lodges here in the States. It's been a very successful program. When March hit, I know we had a couple hundred candidates that we were passing out to the district deputies and the lodges for their follow-ups. For 4 months from March to June, we were relatively dormant. I issued a blanket dispensation for July and August to come back to work, and we haven't been doing degrees. I have a one-day class, September 19th. One of my district has close to 80 candidates that we will be raising. So we are proceeding here in New Jersey. But I do also think that it's more than just getting these new brothers and leaders of the lodges into the fraternity. I think we need a very strong mentoring program, which we've established here in New Jersey and is working very well. It's good to mentor the candidates when they're coming through, but we have to develop them after they are raised. I think that's the most challenging part. And I was very fortunate to have a good mentor that developed myself and stuck with me and even through all the chairs until I sat in the East. But I think we have to get our past masters involved. Once you're out of the East, don't let them go. Get them involved. Get them to mentor these new brothers that are coming through the lines. And I think that'll be a very effective way to create good leadership for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop Brother Scott. Can I get a response from Mateev?
Yes. Thank you, Edward. Again, much like Brother Scott is saying there, the Manitoba is looking some different ways in how it comes down to mentorship. We are reinstating or trying to rebuild a mentoring program through our education committee that we had years ago when we had a mentor for every new candidate came in and a series of booklets in education. And we're currently revising that to meet with the current needs of what the programming is. The education committee is also looking at ways we can use the tool of Zoom at this point in time to do some further education workshops that will help our younger members and provide the leadership skills we need in the future, whether it be we're talking about a certificate in Masonic education program happening. We're talking about doing the wardens workshops and education workshops online and having those sessions going up to do that. Because I think that in this point in time, technology will be our aid to helping to help with that void of leadership that we're concerned about with. And rightly so that some brethren do not want to come out at this point in time, and they should be, we should be quite cautious and respectful of that issue, but we have opportunities here that we're trying to explore to make sure that the new leadership that's growing, that's coming up, will have the same skill sets and opportunities as our previous past masters had, and really encouraging our past masters and the leaders of the lodge, the future leaders, to have the skills. Thank you.
Thank you, Associate Brother Fordeaux. Can I get a response from the Grand Lodge of South Africa?
Thank you, Worship Brother Baron. Brethren, in terms of our constitution and the vacuum, well, we hope not. In terms of our constitution, the deputy of the lodge would take over if something were to happen to the. Just recently, or in the last few months, we've had 3 worshipful masters resigning, and the dead master on the roll. Just like in most of the Grand Lodges, we also have a education program where the leadership project and the advancement projects and mentoring projects of our Grand Lodge fall under the education program. And we are certainly working hard to introduce our brethren to the leadership. We're mentoring our brethren, and we certainly are going to pull out all stops during this lockdown period to keep in close contact with our brethren. So in case any of our senior, or let's call them elderly brethren, feel that they can no longer carry on, that we do not have a leadership vacuum. And we can only pray and hope, brethren, that this is enough that we're doing, but we certainly are making plans for all eventualities. Thank you, Worshipful Brother Baron.
Thank you, Right Worshipful Brother Smith. Could we get a response from India? Right Worshipful Brother Kanisa. Brother Kanisa, are you still here?
The matter of leadership with respect to almost 470 craft lodges and maybe an equal number of other bodies is something that we must take as a serious challenge. Yes, a lot of Masonic education is going on. In fact, technology has given us an opportunity to educate way more than we ever did before the lockdown ever started. In fact, it is there almost every week. Something or the other is happening and serious education is on. But the fact is that most lodges have their installations starting in the month of January, December and January. That would be about 75% of lodges across the country, and the rest have it spread over other months. So 75% of the leaders have virtually done nothing in terms of craft lodge working during the course of this pandemic. Because no sooner they got installed, this lockdown started, and it remains in force. As of now, Grand Lodge of India has not yet opened even for a single meeting. We plan to do a few virtual meetings for the purposes of making elections happen, but those are very limited agenda meetings, and they're not equal to having a physical meeting. So in most lodges, we would reckon that there would be a repetition of the same theme for the next year, and then hoping next year will be a better year and we don't have to wash it off like we washed our hands off 2020. Then we would be able to move on. Leadership would not have a vacuum, but the change of guard would probably be after a year in most cases. Thank you.
Thank you, Right Worshipful Brother Kanisa. Grand Lodge of Bulgaria.
Thank you, Worshipful Baron. The Grand Lodge of Ancient, Free and Accepted Masons of Bulgaria has, for the moment, concentrated on the preparation of the necessary knowledge for leader. In the pandemic situation, 2 approaches are chosen to avoid the natural vacuum of leaders with the necessary knowledge. The first is the search of ideas and suggestions from craft lodges, and the second is maximum participation in all possible initiatives and events outside our jurisdictions, with a view to gathering broadly experience and knowledge of problems of this kind. The history of problematic parallels in our jurisdictions are still fresh. The negative consequences we endure from the problems are described in our letters to the Committee of Information for Recognition at almost every edition of the Conference of the Grand Master of North America. We're not bothered to say that we are ready for joint initiatives in search of solutions, because we believe that mentoring, widespread and described in literature resources of jurisdictions with more than 120 years of history, is something we do not have, but we have a desire and ambitions to apply modern information technologies in processes well described by other jurisdictions. This also explains our desire to seek comparable organizational solutions in the officialized archives of jurisdictions with a long history. This also explains our inspectional activities for the renewal of the grant representatives. Thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you, Most Worshipful Brother Mateev. Response from Grand Lodge of Lebanon, please.
Thank you, Worshipful Baron. We do not foresee any lack of leadership in the Grand Lodge of Lebanon or in its lodges. All our lodges have voted one at a time to keep their current leadership going for another year. So that being said, we're not going to have anything special. We're hoping we're not going to have this issue next year, and God willing, will be over on the other side of COVID. But this disaster that came to Lebanon actually put everybody's leadership skills, at least organizationally, to test. So we have our worshipful brothers practicing everything that they learned in Freemasonry on the streets of Lebanon, trying to implement everything that we learn in real life. So I think this is a lesson, an unforgettable lesson. Now, one, for the magnitude of what happened. Second is how we are one with our society.
Thank you, Most Worshipful Brother Timonian. Could I get a response from Grand Lodge of New York?
Thank you very much. We have no vacuum here at all. In fact, during the COVID situation, I had the opportunity to meet more Masons than I would have if I was out on the road. And we did that by Zoom meetings. I had 5 to 10 lodges a night, and I met them. And now they've gotten to see and speak to a Grand Master. I have more individuals now who want to now start looking towards taking leadership roles. And during this past 6-7 months, we have used a path forward from Scottish Rite, as well as our own internal membership awareness program. And they both collided. And now we have literally thousands of individuals, thousands of men that are looking to become Masons in New York. And is it a problem? Well, it's a problem to do it properly. Is it a bad problem to have? No, it's not a bad problem to have. The idea is to capture them, because as things start to open up again, they're going to find other things to do. And right now, we got them. And we're starting to open back up. We opened up in July and August. About 150 lodges took advantage of that dispensation. And we have the rest of them now starting to come back in September. Of course, everybody's sanitizing everything. Everybody's, Clorox wiping everything. And everybody does it their own way. And I just hope it's done the right way. But the bottom line is we don't have a vacuum at all here. In fact, during this period of downtime, we have bought a college campus that we're converting into senior housing. We have finished a horticultural center that was $3 million that we raised money for. We have another project going on. I'm collecting model trains, and I'm building a Masonic model railroading club. And if you think people aren't donating them, they are. I stopped at one guy's house and I packed up an 8-passenger van with trains from floor to ceiling, including a passenger seat. If he gave me any more, I would have had to throw my luggage out. But we are starting another project with that. We have individuals that are joining. We have a tremendous line of individuals. We have new individuals that are actually now stepping up that want to run for Grand Line offices. So we don't have any kind of a vacuum. I'm doing a State of the State message broadcast-wise September 17, and I'm doing another telethon December 8. So these are really exciting times if you capture the moment. We can either sit and be Eeyore in the Winnie the Pooh story, or we can be the progressive one and go out there and do it. And I choose to take the progressive side.
Thank you, Most Worshipful Brother Sadone. I think that the reason why you're probably having the opposite effect is that I think a lot of people admire your leadership. I certainly heard them say that. So thank you for everything that you did. Could we get a response from the Grand Lodge of Maine, please?
As far as a vacuum of leadership, I don't really see it happening. I believe we've been actually going through a vacuum of leadership for a good many years in this small jurisdiction of only 16,000 Masons. And not for any reason except just by natural cause. The problem that we see more than a leadership vacuum is a recycling of leadership. We have many masters in the lodges who have been repeated masters for 5 and 6 and 7 years, which makes it a little bit difficult in terms of a burnout rate. I think it's probably more, it would behoove us more to actively and intentionally search for leaders and begin the process of molding and creating a good, high quality leaders in the fraternity. We've recently implemented, or we're in the process of implementing the FLIC program, which is something that we got permission from the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts to utilize, and that is the Future Leader Identification Committee, where many brethren who come into the fraternity have no idea that they would be sitting in the position that we are today as leaders. And if we actively seek out those individuals who may perhaps have a skill set that lends itself to being a good leader, then it's up to us to mold and create those leaders. We do have a program here in our grand jurisdiction, the Dirigo Leadership Program, which prepares our pillar officers to assume the East in their lodges. Recently, we had a few brethren that joined Massachusetts in their master's path. And so we are taking some steps to prepare the leaders, but as far as a vacuum, we're okay. We just have to put some new blood in some of those leadership roles.
Thank you, Most Worshipful Brother Nadeau. Brother Myers, I'll hand over to you for the next question.
Thank you. The next question concerns ourselves with protecting the West Gate, or as in New York, as we refer it, guarding the West Gate. Background checks for candidates. Question is, do we use mandatory background checks to ensure that candidates who they say they are upon the application to avoid the surprises later, especially during this pandemic where it's very difficult to visit their homes, etc. If not, should we be using these background checks? And I will call on the Grand Lodge of New Jersey for their response, please.
Thank you, Brother Myers. Here in New Jersey, we have for a while been using background checks, and they are mandatory. With our petition, one of the forms is the consent to the background check, and we do ask to accompany the petition with a $25 charge, which covers the cost. So, especially in this pandemic, as you said, Brother Myers, it is very challenging to investigate candidates. And as we all know, when we do investigate candidates, whether in person or sometimes now we are investigating via Zoom, you're going to see the best side of that potential candidate. So do you really know what happened in the past? We don't. So I think a mandatory background check is very beneficial to give you a little history of that candidate's position in the past, and also to protect us in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Most Worshipful Scott, for your response. And now we'll turn to Manitoba, Canada. Most Worshipful.
Yes, in Manitoba, we have, of course, our thorough investigation process and getting out to candidates, but we do not require that investigation at this point in time. We have discussed at the Board of General Purposes level that perhaps, as we've seen in other jurisdictions, that maybe criminal record checks should be done should be provided when candidates come through. Same with also the Vulnerable Persons Act, social checks to the police departments and RCMP might be included in the future. We're still exploring it at this point in time about whether we should do that, and should you be providing it, or should we be providing us with a fee to go through that process to go farther. So we are working on it, but at the current time, we do not require record checks such as that. Thank you.
Thank you, Most Worshipful Pardo. Could we get a response from the Grand Lodge of South Africa, please?
Thank you, Brother Meyer, and thank you to you and Worship Brother Baron for organizing these extremely interesting meetings on a regular basis. In South Africa, we we haven't had too much impact on our normal processes. The application process is very similar to the one that we've always had. We tend, of course, to do the group interviews in a Zoom basis. We have those meetings, we talk to the people, we do the reference checking. We've never formally done things like criminal checks and so on. We have discussed it, but I'm not sure that we've had brethren coming in that would have failed the criminal checks. Where we've had problems, they generally weren't criminals before they got involved. So it's we bumped our heads with the odd person who behaves badly, but I'm not sure that the checking would have stopped that, unfortunately. The one thing we can't do, of course, and it's mentioned here, is the visiting to the home and that level of interaction. Although we do still try and have the interaction with the candidate's partner, so that we satisfy ourselves that they are more than happy with the decision being made with regard to Freemasonry. But generally, it's the system that we're using, for the most part, works well, so we're not over concerned about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Most Worshipful Edwards. And if we could have our response now from the Grand Lodge of India, please.
At the Grand Lodge of India, most decisions on this are taken at the craft lodge level. Most craft lodge have their processes set in place, and we do not intend disturbing it. At this point in time, initiations are not happening, and not happening because we wouldn't want to do initiations in anything other than a physical meeting. We will not dilute any of our processes, irrespective of what happens, because that is what is sacrosanct about getting a brother, getting a candidate and making him a Mason. So we are where we are. There is no change for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Right Worshipful Gunnason. Grand Lodge of Bulgaria, response, please.
Thank you, Worshipful Brother Mers. The Grand Lodge of Ancient, Free and Accepted Masons of Bulgaria currently has a working idea, for which I reported on the previous edition of this event in July. The implementation of the blockchain technology creates the necessary prerequisites for the extent of all information about events, cases, and initiatives with the related participants. The availability of such information will help to analyze the activities given involving each person to indicate any reaction of each brother. The use of access of personal information, including visiting home and related specific legislation in Europe and the United States. The search for tools for suitable automation is obliged to synchronize with Global Data Protection Regulation in Europe and the similar California Act in the United States of America. At the second international conference in Sofia last year, a developed option for a single craft lodge was considered. But for the moment, the implementation on the Grand Lodge level is still in the beta test phase. We're ready to provide the way and approach to realization and presentation form to those interested. It is understood that jurisdictions with the welder records will have a greater opportunity to use this technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Most Worshipful Mateev. And I'd like to call on the Grand Lodge of Lebanon now. Excuse me.
Thank you, Worshipful Brother. The procedure of accepting petitions, as far as we're concerned, didn't change anything. Actually, between what the website is generating and the interest that we are generating by our members being on the ground, physically working, is impressive, and we have a lot of people interested. The only difference is we implement what we call a 0 degree, which we meet with the candidate. Under normal circumstances, we should be meeting with them in their homes to get to know their family and whatnot. And the whole purpose of the 0 degree is to explain to them what we do, and then sort of also see how they live their lives, and explain to them how being a Mason what's the impact of being a Mason means and brings to the family. We're not able to do that because of the pandemic. So we are meeting with candidates. The worshipful master and a couple of people meet with the candidate in somewhere public where they can discuss things. We have a procedure of we require what you call a background check. We call police report. We do require that, but that only tells you about the criminal aspect of their lives. We're more interested in what they can. So they have to have that as a minimum, and then we go to our 0 degree. So there are no changes right now, and the only thing is we literally are starting our degree work this Tuesday. So we're going to be doing degrees on a very, very limited basis in terms of attendance.
Thank you, Most Worshipful Timian. And now I'd like to call on the Grand Lodge of New York, Most Worshipful Sardone.
Thank you very much. We do background checks. We've been doing them for a while. And when they come through, if there's somebody that comes off the radar, it gets flagged and sent to the Secretary of the Lodge, the Master of the Lodge, Grand Secretary, and myself. The Lodge still has the right to vote the person in if they want to, but if the person is a serial killer and they have voted them in, then I, as Grand Master, have the right to arrest that petition and take the person out. But how they investigate things a little differently now because of Zoom and because of the pandemic, and how they investigate them is different. If it's a DeMolay boy that's been part of the DeMolay chapter that they sponsored for the last, and this boy's been there for the last 7 or 8 years, the process of interview is like, come on down and have a bite to eat with us, because they've known this young man and his family for 6, 7, or 8 years. And for the most part, all the DeMolay boys that apply get in with no problem. It should also be noted that the Scottish Rite here in New York picks up the initiation fee of all senior DeMolays or DeMolays that decide to become Masons, I think up to about $250 per boy. That may not be a bad idea for all of you to think about out there to help out these young men that be coming in. And I'm also thinking of another program for individuals to come back, and that's a direct amnesty for anybody that's been NPD'd up until 2019. I'm reviewing that right now, and what does it cost me? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just cost me a mailing, and that's it. It's up to the Lodge to see if they want to waive some of their dues factors as well. If it's a person over 5 years, they have to go through the whole process of balloting again. But there's a period of time where we had some NPDs that have been mistakes. Some people didn't like who was in the Lodge, and those people are either dead or gone. And maybe they'd want to come back and participate. So I'm reviewing that option as well. But as far as the background checks, we all do them. And something else that I added into our background check, to see if they've always been a man. And that's a very interesting topic. It's probably one that we could talk about some other time on a Zoom call that is not recorded. Did I stun everybody on this one or what? I mean,
no, you didn't. I think Artie was just a little bit lost there.
If you want me to go on, I got another hour here I can do. Give me a chance, you know. I can pull anything out of my hat here. I can go.
I think we could talk about this for multiple hours.
Next, we'll do the unrecorded session, that conversation. I think we're going to go to the Grand Lodge of Maine.
Grand Master Sardone, we're never surprised by anything that comes out of you. So I appreciate your candid approach. We do not have background checks in Maine. We haven't done them. However, in the last 3 or 4 years, we have really gotten a little bit more serious about requiring them. It seems that when it comes to the background check, in the past, I don't think it would have made much difference with some of the brethren who have gone off the rails. I don't believe that that would have showed up in a background check initially. And for whatever reason or not, it happens. As far as the background check, we've gotten some resistance, tremendous resistance from the lodges themselves. Even though their ballot box is the sanctity of the lodge, they're opposed to, for the most part, having a background check because they seem to feel that the expense to the candidate may be a deterrent. And in my opinion, there is no amount of money that is not worth this fraternity. I would pay much more than what I have in the years to be a member of this fraternity. So I don't know that that's a legitimate concern in terms of accepting someone because they may not want to pay the $25 additional for a background check. It doesn't seem like the right reason. But we still are discussing it, and I'd like to see it happen, but I don't know that it will once it comes up for a vote with the brethren.
Well, thank you, Most Worshipful Nadal. I'm back. The internet froze. I'd like to now pass this back to...
Next question or topic is the fourth and the last one, basically, focused on Freemasonry and the internet social media policies, with some Grand Lodges completely dark. During this heated time of social distress, do we have social media policies in place? If not, should we, and how is this being managed? For the very first one, I will go to the Grand Lodge of New Jersey.
Thank you. Before I answer that question, I'd just like to follow up on what Bill Sardone was saying about a program in New Jersey here. I forgot to mention, we implemented a restoration program this year where what Bill said was correct. I mean, these brothers are gone, you lost them, the money is gone. What we've done is just have them come back. If it's more than 5 years, we do the balloting again, but they just pay the current year's dues. And we've reached out to the brothers that have left the craft in the last 5 years. And to date, we've restored over 600 brothers. So it's definitely worth a try. It's definitely worth a try. So as far as social media, look at what we're doing today. This is a beautiful thing. And this is all because of social media and this Zoom. Prior to COVID, I think I might have been on a numbered meetings that I attended via audio, video, or Zoom, or any other manner. But I think it's something, it's a wave of the future, technology. It's good, it's bad. It's been very good tying us together in these last 4 or 5 months. I mean, in my jurisdiction, I could Zoom 4 or 5 meetings in an evening. I can go from North Jersey to South Jersey in a matter of minutes. So I've definitely saved on gas and tires, but it's a good way to get out to everybody. And especially the older brothers that haven't been coming to meetings, brothers from out of state. So I do think that technology is a good thing, but it also has to be something that we have to watch. I do have a social media committee here in New Jersey that's reevaluating our positions, and we're looking at it closely for guidelines for the future. Brothers tend to express themselves a little overwhelmingly sometimes on certain topics on Facebook. I've seen questionable posts that I've had to ask them to take down. And the brothers just have to be mindful that they represent the fraternity when they're out there on all these social media platforms. It's a good thing, but it could be a bad thing. But I think it's part of our future and we must embrace it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Scott. Can I get a response from Manitoba, please? Let's worship Brother Fardell.
I often, sorry about that, I had myself unmuted at that point in time. I'm often asked to mute myself at home, but that's another story at this point. First of all, I just want to say thank you, Edgar. I never got a chance to thank you for the work that you've done in organizing this. I think this is an incredible forum and something we would never have explored. And I see this as part of the renaissance of Freemasonry that is happening, that we get this chance. I've made so many friends here and strengthened brotherly relationships that I would never have had the opportunity to do. And I'm sure it's the same with all of you. So thank you for helping us to engage this way. Another thing too is I know Brother Scott, Brother Sardone mentioned the fact about their programs of reinstating people. In Manitoba, we've had a program that gets revoted on every year called the Honors and Amnesty Program. And it is a program where we allow people who have fallen from the craft or have left for different reasons to join back with only having to pay the current year's dues. And it's been quite an effective tool of bringing back members into the craft. And we will continue to use that program to encourage some of our members, for whatever reason they leave, if the timing's not right or they've left the province or that situation. So we're very happy about that. And the last thing I forgot to mention is currently we are now, as of yesterday, I had to give an edict to close the Masonic meetings until for review in person until some of the provincial restrictions have been lifted until November 1st. So we're not having any lodge meetings until that point in time, and we will be reviewing that situation as it goes on in the month of October. With regards to social media, it's the same as what Gregory said. It's the we have a policy in place. We monitor it frequently, and we've had to at some point in time. Sometimes our members are very exuberant and have some strong opinions, and we've had to sort of go back and say some of the things they accept what they want to share. We've had to go back and say, you know, please take that post down. It's not appropriate for the information you had. But we always are very cognizant of the fact that as we are being more internet active, we have to be very careful about the image we present to the world, and not to discourage them from promoting what we do. It's our demonstration to the public about the good programming and activities that Freemasons do around the world. But just to be careful about what kind of information you post that could come back to create any sort of media issue or concern about that, and to stay sort of apolitical in that situation, that we are not a political organization as such. And so we get concerns and complaints. We deal with it at the Grand Lodge office and remind them what the policy is for social media. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Moses Bordeaux. The Grand Lodge of South Africa.
Thank you, Bush Brother Edgar. We have a fairly detailed social media policy in South Africa. We use social media relatively extensively, and we see ourselves using it a great deal more. It's been effective for us. It works well. We're getting a good response on it. Having said that, we also have situations where people, as the Grand Master of New Jersey said, the people act inappropriately. They often have opinions on subjects which have got nothing to do with Freemasonry, and yet the Facebook site that they're using has all sorts of Masonic links to it, and Freemasonry is automatically involved. And so we go on. So the social media and the technology committee are continually reviewing the policy, continually updating it. We do have to react sometimes and get people to either withdraw or turn down in terms of the content of their sites. But for the most part, it's working well, and we're very happy with the way that we're handling it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brother Edwards. Can I get a response from Grand Lodge of India, please?
Yeah. At the Grand Lodge of India, we have a policy which we made out last year for social media, but largely, like Brother Jeff Edwards and Brother Gregory Scott mentioned, it is aimed at being a deterrent to misuse of social media. And while there are policies with respect to how you hold a virtual meeting and how you handle various things, the important part of our social media policy is that it is A, evolving policy, and B, it is aimed at being a deterrent to inappropriate acts and inappropriate things or irresponsible acts by Masons. I guess that is where we stand. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Right Bishop Brother Gunson. Grand Lodge of Bulgaria.
Thank you, Worshipful Brother Baron. The Grand Lodge of Ancient Free and Accepted Masons of Bulgaria has serious discussions about the possibility for social media policy and the way it's managed. We are aware that we do not have enough experience as well as lack of management potential, but we follow the Spanish proverb about the roads that are made by walking. One of the main objectives that is required is that full awareness of events, facts, and initiatives are mandatory. Trying to censor or filter information in the situation we are in, by my opinion, will eventually lead to deep upheavals. Our thesis is that we need to concentrate on collections, the maximum number of facts, and providing them to the brothers to look for, and they have nowhere to go now. This will make them empathetic and maintain enthusiasm in the fraternal chain, regardless of the remote nature of the realization of the fraternal chain at the moment. Our jurisdictions is aware that every society will seek an outlet, and this is in most cases turns out to be Freemasonry. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Most Worshipful Brother Mateev. Can I get a response from the Grand Lodge of Lebanon, please?
Thank you, Worship Master. We in the Grand Lodge of Lebanon, we started utilizing social media long before the pandemic. We have an active website, we have an active Facebook page. All our lodges are engaged in WhatsApp groups for communication purposes. We very quickly realized that people might express certain opinions that are not very kosher, so to speak. Lebanon is very, very, we have a delicate situation in Lebanon. So we don't have set policies. We had meetings, we discussed things. So we created on WhatsApp groups, social events. On our social groups, the membership can discuss anything they want to discuss. It's a closed circuit of nothing but Masons. And then naturally, we also have the what is related to the lodges. We have the same lodge will have another group just for lodge purposes for Freemasonry, whether it's they're calling for a meeting or whatnot. So that we. The mere fact that we've established two different groups kind of offset the issue of us having any potential issues. The new thing for us is the Zoom, and thank God for Zoom, because that allowed us to, one, and most importantly, make sure that everybody's okay. We could see them in person, and we can talk to them, we can participate, and also gave us the opportunity of meeting with a lot of our brothers from all around the world. Because in our Zoom meetings, we had either participation or even presentations from distinguished guests from all around the Grand Lodge in the world. So technology is being used at its best. It is a very dangerous medium of communication. So we keep it under control. But as of yet, thank God, we don't have any serious issues as far as our membership is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Moses Brother Timonian. Grand Lodge of New York.
I don't look at this as what we're doing today as social media. I look at this today as utilizing technology that's available to us. Social media that I view is things like Facebook. And that's when I see people go off the rails. I can write 100 pages of guidelines, and there's still somebody out there that's either not going to read them or still going to do what they want anyway. And, you know, they've resulted in Masonic charges given to me about what people say, especially now in election time. And because of the unrest that we have in some situations, there's a lot of volatility on Facebook. And some of them, to be honest with you, I just call them up and I tell them, what kind of an idiot are you that posts this kind of stuff? And they say, well, yeah, maybe you're right. And they take it down. I don't do a lot of stuff in writing to them about it because that just kind of escalates it. Then it's another thread, and then they don't get the feeling of what I'm feeling. And when I call somebody and say, what kind of an idiot are you? That's kind of hard to put that feeling into writing. So for the most part, I see people they could be better than they are on the social media aspect. But when it comes to the Zoom things of what we do, I don't look at it as social media. I look at this as using the opportunities of the technology that's available to us. And the technology is going to increase and get better as time goes on, especially if this COVID situation continues its grip on humanity. And I think the opportunities for technology to increase in anticipation of another pandemic that could come down the road is what's going to be in the back of some of the Silicon Valley minds of what's going on. But Facebook and some of those things, they are a double-edged sword. They get the information out, but they also, people have an opinion, they hit the send button, and that's it. They don't have to face anybody. They're a different story when you're looking at them in the eye.
Thank you so much, Most Worshipful Brother Sodom. We're going to go into the closing feedback. So I'm going to be asking of the following structures: the Scottish Rite Northern Masonic Jurisdiction, Scottish Rite South Africa, Royal Lodge Masons International, Grand Lodge of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, of Connecticut, and Arizona, of Vermont, and District Grand Lodge of Lebanon and Syria, if you have any feedback. We'll start with the Scottish Rite Northern Masonic Jurisdiction. Illustrious Brother Gladwin.
Thank you, Edgar and Artie, for hosting this once again. I just enjoy this and learn a lot from listening to all of the distinguished Masons that participate in this. And I've enjoyed following along here, and I made some notes during each section. First, regarding the annual meetings, we just had our annual meeting. The Northern Masonic Jurisdiction holds a large session every other year on the odd-numbered year, and that's the big session where we present our 33rd degree, etc. On the off year, the even-numbered year, we meet only with the active and emeritus members of our Supreme Council, only to conduct the business. And this year we had planned on being in Portland, Maine with the ladies and having a very nice time. But of course that didn't happen. So we planned a meeting at our headquarters here in Lexington, Massachusetts. And then the state of Massachusetts banned about half of our states within the jurisdiction from attending. So most of our meeting was conducted on Zoom. We had 21 of our active members and a few emeritus members that were able to attend here in Massachusetts. Currently, the state of Massachusetts is allowing all of New England, New York, New Jersey, except Rhode Island, to be here. So our Rhode Island actives had to take the COVID test within 72 hours and came with their documents to prove they were okay. And we did conduct all of our business over Zoom, with the exception that our Constitution calls for a ballot box for voting on new members, new active members, and voting on our 33rds. So we did have a quorum, and we were able to complete that. We had social distancing in our big auditorium. We had all the seats taped off. They were scattered. We have the kiosk that measures your temperature when you walk in. Everybody had masks, so we obeyed all the local rules, and somehow we got it done. So this annual meeting is in the books, and everything's voted on for next year. It's a good thing because we have a large class of 33rds. With the 80-some we voted on last year and the ones we voted on this year, we have a class of 293 33rd degree candidates for our session in Cleveland next year. Regarding officers, that wasn't a problem with us this year. We elect officers every 2 years. I have a 10-year term. All the other officers of the Supreme Council have an 8-year term. So we're good until next year when we have a lot of changes. As far as the valleys go, I gave permission to the deputies to let the valleys meet over Zoom, or the deputies could declare the officers elected and installed. It's not a big deal for us because each valley officer line is kind of a 1 year or 2 year line, and it's a succession thing, and it's, you know, it's not like people run against each other for the office. They've earned their spot by then, and it happened. So it wasn't like very difficult for the deputy to just declare the next line of officers. As far as new members coming in, we realized a while back we had a problem with large gatherings this fall. Most of our reunions are done in big auditoriums with a lot of people, never mind the amount of people that actually participate in the live degrees. So fortunately, we have 14 of our degrees on video. So we have planned now 3 virtual reunions that are going to take place, 2 in October, 1 in November. And we're going to do our requirements are every member must see the 4th degree and must see 3 other degrees in any other order to make them eligible to receive the 32nd degree. So each of these virtual reunions will allow people to be eligible for the 32nd degree. You're not presenting the 32nd degree on video. We're hoping that things can get back to a way that the valleys can do the 32nd degree themselves on home turf. We do have a video of the 32nd degree, and if we need to, we can do it. But right now, we just feel that we're in pretty good shape. We opened the reunion up electronically recently, and we already have hundreds of candidates, and more than 1,000 members have already signed up to watch it. So like I say, it's 3 different Saturdays starting at Eastern time, 9 o'clock in the morning, and they'll be done before lunchtime. And there's some education and some other things thrown in between. Thank goodness we could do that. A lot of our valleys, a lot of our larger valleys said they'll never use one of our videos. They just won't. They'll do the degrees live. Well, they all have a different outlook on that right now with the pandemic in place. So, and it's an option. It's not anything that the White Ivory Tower up here is telling people to do. It's completely their option. Regarding the West Gate, well, we're in a lucky position. We let the Grand Lodges and the lodges do that. Any Master Mason in good standing in the Northern Masonic jurisdiction is welcome to join Scottish Rite. We don't have a ballot box. If they've made it through a lodge in good standing, we welcome them. And as far as our restorations have gone, it's been fantastic. I think because of our Thursday night at the Rites that we were doing in the springtime, every Thursday night we were showing a degree, but you couldn't tune into that unless you had your member number was in good standing. We restored over 1,100 members during that time because a lot of members out there just wanted to be a part of it and see the degrees. And we also did, our membership team in the office sent out e-restorations. We hit several thousand of our members that went NPD in the past several years, and we hit them a few times on email for an e-restoration, and several hundred members, part of that 1,100, signed up because of that. And you Grandmasters might want to think about that. It's inexpensive, and we did get quite a few members back just by sending it through electronically. And regarding the social media, we don't have a written policy. However, when someone gets out of line on Facebook or something, first of all, we flag them, and then we have people that monitor it, some of our staff, and we get to our deputy from that state, and we work it down there for someone to reprimand on a local face-to-face level, like Grandmaster Sardone was saying. We get our deputy or his representative to make contact with the member and say, shame on you, don't do that again. And if they persist, then we follow through. But usually the local level takes care of that. Anybody that acts out of hand in Scottish Rite is probably acting out of hand in a Grand Lodge level, and usually our Grand Lodges take care of that, so we don't have to. But anyway, that was my quick summary of listening here and trying to gather my thoughts. I'm available, offline if you want to ask any questions anytime. But I really enjoyed being with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, illustrious Brother Gladly. Right, so I'm going to go to the Scottish Rite for South Africa, either the most present Brother Duplessis or illustrious, most illustrious Brother Mahmoud Patel.
Die Scottish Rite in South Africa is not isolated from the rest of the world, so we are all going through the same challenges. And obviously on at that end, currently what we are busy doing is focusing on the further development of our programs, education program, and so forth, at least so by the time that we are able to meet again in the temples, that those programs will be 100% to present to the brethren for further studies. And on that basis, I want to really thank also the Sovereign Grand Commander gladly for really assisting me a lot in the last a month or so. And we have opened up a gate of a long-lasting relationship with the Northern Masonic jurisdiction that we'll definitely going to capitalize on a number of issues to build the Scottish Rite in South Africa. We have also received through the Northern Masonic jurisdiction a very well prepared leadership program from the Grand Lodge of Wisconsin, that we have now 3 PhD brethren and a professor of Wits University assisting us to build a leadership program. And that program will obviously not just be to the benefit of Scottish Rite Masons, but also for all Masons. And it will have an element in where we will also bring in those that we identify as potential Masons to build leaders within that group. So yes, we are busy with a number of issues in the background to assist us to build the Scottish Rite in South Africa to its rightful place. Thank you.
Thank you, most puissant Duke C. I'd now like to go to the Royal Lodge Masons International, the most excellent companion, Edwin Harris.
Thank you, Brother Barron. Thank you, Brother Myers, for making all this possible. Very interesting as always. General Grand Chapter, being more of an advisory body than a ruling body, doesn't have too much to say in many of these questions, but our triennial, we meet every 3 years, was scheduled for September 28th in Louisville, Kentucky. And just this past week, that has been canceled, and we're going to a virtual meeting on November 21st. So there's a lot of changes being made at the moment in those plans, particularly working how to do the balloting, voting, and we know it can be done. We've just got to figure out how we're going to do it. Regarding the question of leadership, we see this as less of a problem at the lodge and chapter level than we do at the grand body level. We've had quite an influx of younger members into the Royal Arch in recent years. However, that has not yet flowed through to the grand officers at the same rate. As I reflect on the Grand Chapter of New York, except for the Grand High Priest, all the other officers are in their 40s and 50s. At General Grand Chapter, this is a problem because we have a 9-year requirement from election to General Grand Scribe until completion as General Grand High Priest. It is expected that candidates will be past Grand High Priest to start with, so that means somewhere between 14 and 20 years to go through the 2 lines. Our recent General Grand High Priests have all been in their upper 70s and early 80s at retirement. 2 of the current 3 candidates for General Grand Scribe are about 50, which would put them in their 60s at retirement, so that's encouraging. The chapter has an advantage over the lodge regarding investigation because we basically throw it all on the lodge. And if for a member to petition to the Royal Arch, he has to be a member in good standing in his lodge. And so our investigations are done, but they don't have to be as thorough because we have the benefit of them having passed through the Westgate procedure before they became a member of the lodge. Regarding social media, we have a website, but that's primarily just informational, and there's not much interaction there because each grand chapter has their own website, and they control that and control the social media aspect of things. That makes it a little bit easier for us. That's basically the story from our Royal Arch position. And again, thank you for the opportunity to present this to you.
Thank you, Most Excellent Companion Harrison. I'd like to get a response from the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts, the Most Worshipful Brother Martin.
Well, thank you, Brother Barron, for the opportunity to attend today. It's very interesting, and I'm really enjoying it. We do things a little different in Massachusetts. We have quarterly communications, and we have a 5th meeting each year, which is our installation on December 27th. So each of these events attracts about 600. Actually, we limit it to 600, each quarterly and the Feast of St. John. In Massachusetts, the Grand Master serves 3 one-year terms. The deputy is appointed by the Grand Master, not elected. The senior and junior Grand Wardens are elected yearly. However, the candidates that run for office are selected by the sitting Grand Master. These 3 offices, the deputy, senior, and junior, are then put into a pool. It's called permanent members, and those permanent members become voting members, but they are also the pool to select the next Grand Master. The next Grand Master is selected every 3 years by the past Grand Masters. It does stand for election, but runs unopposed. Due to COVID-19, I was forced to cancel our March quarterly because it happened the day after the governor announced a state of emergency in Massachusetts. Our June meeting was by Zoom, as well as our coming up September meeting. And we have come up with a hybrid method for that, where we're doing a Zoom with a live stream as well as online voting. And you can certainly contact me offline to get more details on that. Currently, our group size is still 25 in Massachusetts, but our Blue Lodges are working. They are raising candidates, and they've figured out how to get it done within the guidelines. I'm hoping that the governor will give us larger groups for December and we can run a normal election in a normal meeting. I'm not too optimistic about that at this point. As far as our Grand Lodge offices and Blue Lodge offices, I've encouraged the Blue Lodges to continue another year, sort of a do-over year. And at Grand Lodge, I think that's what we're going to do. I hope to make an announcement shortly. Also in that mix is our secretary and treasurer, and they also run unopposed. With regards to leadership vacuum and changing of the guard, like I said, we're going to have a lot of do-overs this year. I don't anticipate any problems with leadership because we have a very robust training program. We have programs for deacons. We have programs for wardens. We have a Master's Path educational program that lasts an entire day. And we have a District Deputy Grand Master program that's a 2-day event with an overnight stay at a hotel. Some of those have now been put online, and we're doing them via Zoom. With regards to background checks, we do them in Massachusetts and have done them for several years. Unfortunately, our court systems are so backed up right now that we can't get them processed. So in the interim, so as not to delay the process, I've asked the lodges to just add a line to the application. Have you ever been convicted of a felony? If so, explain, and then they can make the decision on their own. It does not preclude anybody from joining. but it certainly can be eye-opening. As far as the investigations themselves go, I really haven't seen the problem. I've suggested that you make your own decisions. You talk to candidates. What are they comfortable with? If they're comfortable with a couple of members coming to their home, do it. If they're not, do it via Zoom and any other method you can come up with. And they're getting it done. We are processing candidates regularly now. Took a while to get there, but we're there now. Social media. We have had a policy in place for several years. And I further expounded on that a week after I was installed at a large organizational meeting at Grand Lodge, where we had probably 200 or 300 of the leaders of the fraternity as participants. At that meeting, I made it quite clear that divisiveness, social, political commentary wasn't going to be tolerated in Massachusetts. And the way I explained it was, I am a very strong proponent of the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, which gives everyone total free speech. However, I said, once you put on that Masonic uniform, you are now representing the craft. And regardless of what you post on social media like Facebook, no matter whether you're on the left or the right, you will in fact be alienating 50% of the population. And our job isn't to alienate them, but to bring them closer. So we've had pretty good luck with that. I've had very, very few problems. I have had a few that have extended to suspension. And I've had one expulsion because it was a multiple offender over many times. And usually we, generally speaking, I would speak to them directly and see how it goes. But sometimes they run so off the rails that they need to be suspended or expelled. And last one, amnesty. We have an amnesty program in place, and I plan to continue it. I think it's a great idea, and I like the electronic idea from Brother Glatley. That would save some time. I think a combination of electronic and sending out a letter is still only 55 cents in Massachusetts is well worth the effort. And I think that just about covered it. Be happy to answer any questions on or offline at anyone's convenience. Thank you.
Thank you, Most Worshipful Brother Maggio. I'd now like to go to the Grand Lodge of Rhode Island, Most Worshipful Brother Cotton.
Well, thank you very much, Worshipful Baron and Worshipful Myers. It's certainly been a very informative morning here in Rhode Island for me, hearing very much the same issues and discussions that we have here in Rhode Island across the world. And that was not really a surprise, but it was very nice to participate and hear from the countries around the world and how they're dealing with the issues, and finding out that many of the brothers here today are dealing with the same and pretty much coming up with the same resolutions. So I'm very happy to be a part of this, and thank you very much, Worshipful Baron, for inviting us here. I was installed back in May by Zoom. I, have not had the opportunity really to do much fraternally within Rhode Island, as we have been in May basically shut down. But come the end of May, there was a little glimmer of hope, and we opened up a little bit. We were allowed to have 15 people gather, and at that time I gave the okay to the lodges who felt comfortable that they had the cleaning materials and masks and whatever to open up to do so. Some of them did, and some did not. They didn't feel comfortable. It was an interesting experiment on Zoom. I think a lot of people really enjoyed it. We talked about this earlier, but many of my lodges commented that they had brothers coming back on Zoom from all over the country and including around the world, Germany being one of the countries that several of our members are in and participated in their lodge Zoom calls. So, you know, the real question I've heard both sides of this argument, but the real question is, do we continue to have Zoom as a lodge meeting? What I've suggested to my lodges is that if you're opening in person, once you open, have a hybrid meeting, open up on Zoom. And the rest of your meeting will be on Zoom until you're about to close. And at the time you close the Zoom meeting, tell them, you know, you'll see them on the other side of the closing of the lodge. And then they can have some special time together on Zoom if they choose. So I think Zoom is here. I've heard many comments on it this morning, and it's not going away. I think this is part of our fabric going forward, and we're going to have to figure out how to make it work the best in each one of our jurisdictions. So we opened in June, and then the next thing that happened was our governor here put out what is called a venue of assembly category. We had requested the governor and her people to categorize us as something, so we would have an idea of what we could and do. And what happened was that they couldn't do that. They just never got back to us. So I made the decision in early August or actually late July, that we would be part of a venue of assembly is the category that they had. And that allows us to have 66% of the maximum people in a room or in a lodge be able to attend. And the way that I did that and why I called it a venue of assembly is basically, you know, we have ritual, we sit in chairs, we don't necessarily move around the lodge that much. And there are other organizations, including churches, synagogues, what have you, that fall into that category here in Rhode Island. Not that we are associated with any religion, as we all well know, but the categories seem to fit for us. And so I gave the edict that we could have 66% of our lodge room capacity. And that opened up the opportunity in August for some lodges to have degrees. So we're starting with degrees and so forth. Rhode Island is the only state in New England that is not allowed to travel per se. And we're all very surprised at this because evidently we're not calculating our numbers, or the calculation of numbers for everybody out, it's not working. And so they've called us out and said that you can't go somewhere in New England, and New England can't come to you unless you quarantine and all this kind of stuff. I don't agree with that, and I think a lot of other people would agree with me on that. But so we can't go anywhere for the most part. I also suggested to my lodges that they can stay for a second year if they choose. Of course, it's an election process, so they would have to talk to the officers of the lodge would have to talk to the membership, and everybody would have to be in agreement that they would stay another year, and then have an election showing that everybody is staying in their chairs again. I'll see how that works out. We're just coming into our season of new lodges, new officers in lodges. So we'll see how that works. I'm not sure if they're interested or not, but we will see. I'm also having a series of Grand Lodge degrees starting in September for 3 weeks. On a Saturday, we're doing the EA, the FC, and the MM. In our jurisdiction, we require memorization of the degree or a portion of the degree, a catechism per se, between each degree. And then we have them recite it in lodge. I'm sure a lot of you have that as well. What I did to speed up the process was I basically said, okay, we don't need to do the memorization between the E8 and also from the FC, but they're going to have to do the MM, and then they're going to have to recite that in lodge, and then they can sign the bylaws. So we're sort of speeding it up so we can get the people that have been hanging around, not only because of COVID, but before that. We've got about 45 or 50 candidates that are sitting in different degrees, and we want to just get them through. And that way, if another round comes in November, we're not going to be all that worried about people that are hanging out there and losing interest. We are continually bringing in applications. Investigations, we haven't really figured that out yet. No one's really doing them, but I've heard a lot of really good suggestions here today, and I'd like to, bring that back to the Grand Council that we have to work that out. To answer a couple of the questions here, one last thing. We have elections in November coming up for our officers, and they get installed in May. So come this November, there will be an election for a new Grand Master and Grand Lodge officers and so forth. I think we may end up on Zoom on that. I'm not sure. It's going to be in the middle of November, and we may not be able to meet at all. So we're seeing how that works. We do background checks here in Rhode Island. We started this maybe 10 years ago when it became a hot topic. We just use a company that provides us with the information. We charge the prospective candidate $25 and so forth, and that seems to work. They don't seem to have a problem with that. I know some jurisdictions actually have the candidate bring a background check with them to the investigation. I guess that works as well, but we've chosen this direction. We do have a social media policy. It's not strict, but it's enough to say that it's broad enough to say that if there is a brother that's gone off the rails, as we tend to call it, or actually Worshipful Sardone called it, we have a way of dealing with that. First of all, everybody polices everybody else. And if they're not doing that, if something gets through, then basically the district deputy grand master is going to have a conversation. And if that doesn't work, then the member ends up in the grand master's office and having a conversation with me. And that seems to have worked. I had an issue about 4 weeks ago that we dealt with. And it actually turned out to be a learning experience, not only for him, but for us. And the person that I brought in to assist me in the conversation, it ended up being a mentor for this person. So it actually turned out very, very well. I am very interested in the amnesty program, and I know a lot of you have different ways of doing it, but I would like to do it. I think it's an awesome idea. Basically, that's what I have to bring to the table here, and I thank you all for the opportunity to hear everything that you have to say, and I thank Worshipful Baron and Worshipful Myers for putting this together. I look forward to the next one. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Most Worshipful Brother Kaufman. I'm going to ask of the Grand Lodge of Connecticut, our Deputy Grand Master, the Right Bishop Brother Plamen, to give his response.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Our Grand Master is off doing an unpleasant task in one of our lodges this morning, so I guess the response falls to me. I thank you very much for putting on this, Worshipful Baron and Worshipful Meyer. This is wonderful. This is the first one I've attended. It's been absolutely terrific. We do not have background checks in Connecticut as yet. We tried 10 years ago and the craft voted it down. We're getting ready to try to do it again this October at our session. That session will probably be a little bit handicapped because it has to be by Zoom. We're going to be meeting with our Grand Lodge officers and the brothers responsible for running the Zoom meeting in a room, and everyone else will attend by Zoom. So it's the first time we've done that, obviously, and it's going to be very interesting. As far as social media is concerned, we also had a problem last month or earlier this month. Brothers internationally may understand that we have something unfortunately called the Ku Klux Klan in the United States. And it is mostly dampened down, but we had two brothers who chose to pose in commandery robes that looked very much like Ku Klux Klan robes. And that was very, very unfortunate. And our Grand Master and the Grand Commander have both been dealing with that effectively. One of them is very, very contrite and apparently really did not understand what he was doing. And the other brother is undergoing conversations with the Grand Lodge and the Grand Commandery. I thank you very, very much for the opportunity. I look very much forward to attending the next one. Earlier today, we had some power outages here, so I was in and out of this meeting, having a little bit difficulty subduing my passions over that. So I missed some of the conversation, but I really do appreciate being here. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Right Worship Brother Bowman. The good news is that I will make a little video afterwards, and you'll certainly be able to see what you've missed. So thank you for your time. Great. I'd like to go to the Grand Lodge of Arizona. Worshipful Brother Beaton, would you like to comment on some of these topics?
Thank you, Worshipful Baron. I'm echoing what a lot of the Grand Lodges said. Arizona is having a lot of the similar problems. We had our communication plan for June. It was rescheduled a couple of times with various levels of protection and consideration of the virus and how it was expanding in Arizona. In August, late August, we finally decided just to have the installation of the progressive line over Zoom. We did meet in person, and it was limited to about 25 people in the big Shrine Auditorium. So we all were able to properly space out, and it was broadcasted, like I said, via Zoom. The Grand Master, Most Worshipful Boyd Robertson, then declared all the appointed officers installed at that meeting. Lodges have been meeting via Zoom all summer. They were given the option to meet in person if they could if they could put together a plan that made it safe for all members to attend. There are lots of different size lodges throughout Arizona, along with different communities, different population densities. So the Grand Master chose not to make one overall declaration, but let it sit with the masters of each lodge to protect their members, how they chose, and as dictated by various things within the community and the size of the lodge. Arizona has the advantage of having a lot of younger members that are in leadership positions in the lodge. So the Zoom actually was a tool that they were used to, and many have actually used it to their advantage and have been doing some amazing leadership, amazing education programs that have not only increased membership or participation from members of the lodge, but also the friend-to-friend program has continued through education that is obviously adapted to them and appropriate for them. Recently, within the last month and a half, the Grand Master has, like I said, allowed the lodges to open. There are limits on doing degrees, on wearing masks, on wearing gloves, things like that. So he has put some things together on degrees, but as the stated meeting goes, it's up to the master. Let's see, background checks once again are to the lodges. Many of our lodges do them in some of the larger cities, and the larger lodges have been doing background checks for years. And it is not something the Grand Lodge has approached recently, and maybe will do so in the future. I know it's kind of been discussed among smaller committees, but never brought to the Grand Lodge as a whole. Social media, sounds like we're having the same problems that everybody else has. There has been one or two issues where people have been on chats, people have been out in the public, and whether their personal page has them in a Masonic outfit, has square and compasses in their profile picture, but somehow they've been identified as Masons and have not put forth the best image of the fraternity, and they've been dealt with by the Grand Master. And actually, lastly, I know we've been here for a while, but in addition to being on the progressive line in Arizona, I am also the master of Castle Island Virtual Lodge out of the Grand Lodge of Manitoba under Most Worshipful Fardeau, who has kind of mentioned it a couple of times. And we've been meeting via Zoom or similar platform for just under 10 years. And I think some of you kind of started to figure out my junior warden is currently in Australia. My Tyler is in Italy. We have membership all over the world, and each meeting does bring Masons from all over the world. We're currently have about 230 members attending or I'm sorry, not 230 members, but 230 visitors for each of our quarterly meetings, and has been kind of ahead of the game on what everybody else now is figuring out, that the Zoom is a viable platform to increase these fraternal relations and to give out a little bit of Masonic education. We hope that it continues to grow, and we understand that there are limitations and there are advantages to being in person, but it definitely is an experience that we never would have been able to have, say, 20 years ago. And I'm proud to be a member of Grand Lodge of Manitoba, and I appreciate Most Worshipful Fardeau's support of the lodge and the previous Grand Masters before him. And I look forward to future Masonic town halls, Worshipful Brother Barron. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Worshipful Brother B. And now you all know it started in Manitoba. The Grand Lodge of Vermont, the Most Worshipful Brother Stuart Corso.
Thank you, Worshipful Brother Barron and Worshipful Brother Meyer, for organizing and this session and inviting me to it and allowing me to speak. I think this has been a great forum. It's very interesting to see that we all face similar challenges during these times, no matter where we are in the world. And it's also interesting to see how we each think of ways to keep our craft alive, given where we are. In Vermont, we're a very rural state, and so we have not been affected as much by the COVID-19 as some of you other jurisdictions have. We are very lucky in that regard. We did, however, have to cancel our annual communication of the Grand Lodge last June. In order to maintain our constitution, we did vote for Grand Lodge officers via mail. And then I had the installing Grand Master declare the officers elected and installed and appointed in their various positions. We were able to meet last Wednesday and open the Grand Lodge so that we could say that we did not have a year where we weren't able to open the Grand Lodge. Our state has opened up to the point where we can have 50 people at a meeting with social distancing. And so we opened the Grand Lodge with just the Grand Lodge officers. We had about 42 people in attendance. We gave our reports. We outlined the budget for the ensuing year. I gave my report as Grand Master to the Grand Lodge. And we had a modified installation of officers with social distancing. So I was not able to actually place the collars on my grand officers, but we did do an installation, and that was all recorded, and it's going to be made available to the brothers on our website so that they can see it. One thing that we're doing, we're allowing the first and second degrees to be given, but not the third degree. Given the aspects of the third degree that require close physical contact, my board and I thought that it would detract from the experience of the candidate if we somehow modified the third degree. But the first two degrees in our jurisdiction may be given with social distancing. So I allowed the first and second degrees to be given. And in Vermont, the master can open the lodge on the first or the second degree. So they can attend lodge meetings and the master can open the lodge on the degree where they are. And I have instructed the lodges to give them instruction, teach them all the lectures of each degree, allow them to participate in the degree where they are. So hopefully that will keep our candidates busy. In terms of social media, we don't have a policy. That's something that our board has to address. In terms of background checks, they are not mandatory. As I said, we're a very small state. Mostly we have very small communities. Most everyone knows everything about everyone else. So that hasn't been an issue to date. But I'm thinking that we should have some sort of background checks. I think that is about it. It's late, and pretty much everything that I have said will be a repeat of something that someone else has said. But I would just like to say again to Worshipful Brother Barron and Myers, thank you so much for the invite. This has been a very nice forum. And brothers, wherever you are, I wish you good health and safety to you, your families, and all the brethren. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Most Worshipful Brother Corso. Last one on the list, we're almost done. The Right Worshipful Brother Issa from the District Grand Lodge of Lebanon and Syria. Do you have any comments?
Thank you so much. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, brethren. Thank you, Worshipful Baron. Thank you, Worshipful Myers, for the opportunity you gave us in this meeting. First of all, I would like to thank all the brethren who gave us all the support, all the emails, all the phone calls, you name it, for the wonderful words that gave us the support they gave after the explosion of the 4th of August. Also, I would like to give a big thank to Most Worshipful Bill Sardon, the Grand Lodge, the Grand Master of the State of New York, our Grand Master, for the great and wonderful and infinite support he gave to our brethren and to the jurisdiction of District Grand Lodge of Syria and Lebanon. Also, I would like to thank Most Worshipful Rafi. It goes without saying, the Grand Lodge of New York, Grand Lodge of Lebanon also, for the support and for the love. Actually, we've been going into many issues. Started the end of 2019 with the crisis that we have, the economical crisis that we had, and started also in the beginning of 2020. We added the COVID-19 with the addition to the crisis, which became very hard in Lebanon. Also, a few weeks ago, we had this big explosion. I don't know what we are expecting more, but thank God that all the brethren are in good health. None of them is hurt. Actually, we have minor issues, minor things, let's say damages in the houses, but thank God they are in good health. Also, in terms of meetings, we resumed our meetings in July. actually, and we had and thank God that we have finished all the meetings, the installations, the elections and installations. Almost 90% of our district is and the lodges are done with this. We were respecting all the measures, safety measures, with gloves, mask, and sanitizer, and everything went well. In the meantime, we were having Zoom meetings, and I believe that we were the first to start the Zoom meeting with the collaboration with the Grand Lodge of Lebanon, actually. And we had many nice meetings. We had many brethren from all over the world, and we were happy to see them all together in these meetings. Unfortunately, the explosion of the 4th of August has, let's say, it was a knockout for us. And so we left everything, and then we went on the ground. We were joined together, all the brethren from the district, all the brethren from the Grand Lodge of Lebanon. We were called together. We went on the ground. We went helping the brethren first. We were helping the people. We started helping them with food boxes. We started to help the volunteers on the ground, the NGOs. It was a very nice work, but because the destruction was huge, we had to do this. We had to help everybody. Now we will be back again to Zoom meeting, in God willing, and we will be back also into physical meetings for urgent, let's say, urgent meetings in lodges, such as giving the degrees. So all the lodges wish to have degree work. They will be doing it. Of course, with respecting all the safety measures. Also, I would like to thank you again. I would like to thank all the brethren. I'm also happy to see you all. Grandmaster Rafi, Most Worshipful Rafi, happy birthday. I love you so much and I miss you. Please take care, brethren. Be safe, and we love you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Right Worship Brother Issa. I don't recall Brother Rafi actually telling me or anyone that it is his birthday. If that was the case, we certainly would have wished him a happy birthday, but thank you. We'll take that one offline. I now would like to recognize Most Worship Brother Plamen Mateev, past Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Bulgaria, for a closing comment and to declare the Masonic Town Hall closed.
Beloved brethren, in all your degrees and merits, there are enough opinions expressed to chart the directions of trends so far. We have no guarantee that the new normality will be the old status quo. We are not going to be able to find a balanced solution for the continuation of our activity and perhaps in a certain dynamics. It is obviously that much of the ideas will be born of those who can, from bottom up, with the help of mentoring, the knowledgeable and experienced. We may not be in the right directions, and in a moment, we will have new data for the next month, but the pattern of our event must continue to evolve. I now declare the 5th International Masonic Town Hall closed.
Thank you so much, Most Worshipful Brother Mateev. For that, I want to thank our responders and senior brethren for protecting or guarding the West Gate and preserving this oldest of institutions for generations to come. Thank you for all that you do. And brethren, all for your time, ongoing support and participation in joining us from the 5th Masonic Town Hall, live from New York. A special thank you, as always, to my co-host, Worship Brother Myers, but more importantly, to all of you. You may not always realize it, but as a fraternity, we have a responsible role to play in society, and our time is a precious commodity. So thank you all for all that you do. I hope it was a valuable experience and that you will join us for the 6th International Masonic Town Hall in September. I wish you all well in your families, your jobs and businesses and communities. Peace, love, tolerance, and understanding. All that's left for me to say is to the brethren in the United States, Canada, and South America, good afternoon. The brethren in South Africa, Africa, Europe, good evening. To the brethren in India, good night. Namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom, and peace be unto you. God bless, stay safe, and say no to racism. Before you go, as I said, there's a closing video. As I humbly introduce for your consideration, I can only describe as perhaps the international anthem for Freemasonry. All the quorum is herewith suspended, and this platform is now open for casual and social interaction. That now ends our town hall, and those who wish to take their leave are able to do so, and those of us who remain can do so as well. Thank you so much for your time. Can you still hear me? Or?
Thank you, Worshipful. It was a wonderful morning, and I'm glad that I was able to participate. And I wish everyone the best of health and stay safe in these COVID times and across the world in places that we are having major issues such as Lebanon. I wish you all the best of luck and Godspeed. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
So mote it be.
Good night, President. Thank you very much. It was another fine meeting, Edgar. It's the fifth one I've been to, and I've enjoyed every one of them. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arthur, for your assistance. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And Arthur, thank you for the wonderful job you've done. I think this is a fantastic opportunity to increase our fraternal relations and friendship and really move the craft in a very positive way. So I have to share a little bit of joy. You might have seen me fidgeting a bit today here at this point in time, but we have a new addition to our family as a
wow. Congratulations.
But I don't know if you can see him. He's passed out on the floor right here.
Oh, right.
Just came yesterday. He's an 8-year-old senior Mastiff, and he's gentle, but he was on his. We had a dog for 14 years last year. We just got a new one, but he was unfortunately because of his size and situation, he was on his what I would say third strike, and he was going to be put down and no one rescued him. So we've taken him. I don't know what the issue was. He's other than he pulls a bit when you can drag me down the street, but he sleeps most of the day. So he's quite similar to me in that way. So anyway, take care, guys. Have a good one. See you next month.
Thank you so much for that.
Very good. Very good.
All right. Thank you, brethren. Anyone else?
I'll just say something. It's
Yes,
difficult to not see my brothers in person, especially being an apprentice. But it's a real treat to see some of the real committed Masons who stay till the end and socialize here with each other. And I consider you all my new friends here, and I just can't wait to shake hands with my friends, my local friends in Winnipeg, though. I just entered the apprentice degree and everything stopped. I memorized all my stuff now and just anxious to get to the next level. So thanks for the time, and thanks for hearing me out, guys, and take care. God bless.
You're welcome. Welcome to the craft. Welcome to the global brotherhood. I hope we've demonstrated that. There are many more, I promise you that. But keep memorizing your work, and I can almost guarantee you they and we will all get back together in terms of that. And there's a very long journey ahead of you. I see our brother Patel is laughing because he's already 33rd degree. He knows exactly what I'm saying. So yes, welcome to the craft. Happy to have you. Look forward to seeing you again, and all the best with Freemasonry for you, with your career. Yeah.
Brother Justin, I'm looking forward to when this is all done to being at your when you're raised to a Master Mason, and thank you for joining me and supporting the Canadian contingent that comes out to this. You will learn a lot from this group. It's a very valuable opportunity to gain Masonic knowledge.
I just have one question. I know what we call a son of a Mason. Now, what do we call the dog?
I don't know, but the last dog was installed. I do the Master Mason degree in our lodge. He was raised to a Master Mason at least 30 times.
Right.
So he'll become Brother Willie in a bit, I'm sure.
There you go, Willie. That works.
Worshipful Edgar, worshipful Arthur, thank you so much for inviting me. I also would like to thank all Grand Masters that were present, and of course all for your invitation. and I look forward to your next meeting so I can be present and video. Thank you again.
Thank you, Brother Calderon.
Thank you, Bill. Right Worshipful Gil Calderon. Brothers, stay safe and healthy wherever you might be, wherever your travels outside of your house might take you. Just stay safe, healthy, maintain caution, and to our friends in Lebanon, our hearts go out to you, and I know Grand Lodge, New York is helping out in ways, and I'm sure everybody else will. Again, just be cautious, stay safe and healthy to you and your families.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Worshipful Brother Edgar, permission.
Yes.
I would like to extend my appreciation to past Grandmaster of Grand Lodge of Manitoba, Most Worshipful Brother Chibu, who invited me in this Masonic, 5th Masonic Town Hall meeting. And I would like to extend also congratulations to you, Worshipful Brother Edgar and Worshipful Brother Arthur, for arranging this very informative town hall meeting and enlightening to know Grand Lodges of the world concerns and path forward. Very enlightening meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother LaGuardia.
Thank you, brother, and look forward to seeing you on the next call.
Yes, sure. I will be attending the next town hall meeting.
Good. We look forward to having you. Anyone else? Brother Bateau?
Worshipful Brother Edgar Baron, Worshipful Brother Arthur Myers, congratulations again on your 5th International Masonic Town Hall and for bringing all brethren on the face of this planet together in a forum that shares and ensures that we stay connected in the most challenging of times in our current lifetime. Most importantly, we look forward to the next one in September. And us down here in the south, on the tip of Africa, wish you both and all the brethren here everything of the best. Fraternal greetings, love and peace to all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brother Patel.
I think the one thing that we have proven is we cannot have a town hall in 1 hour and 30 minutes.
I think we discovered that.
It's not possible. Thank you, Brother Patel. Anyone else?
No. We got a golf game this afternoon.
Okay.
You guys up to anything fun?
I doubt it. I doubt it very much.
Well, it's raining here again in New York, so can't even go for my afternoon walk.
It's another day of taking care of some Masonic business right now. We'll be just following up on a few emails and trying to get some things set up.
Sounds good. You guys stay safe in those adventures. Oh, I got somebody to show you. Say hi to Daddy's friends.
Hello.
Hi, Bree.
Hello.
Hey, wait.
Bree.
You give him a thumbs up?
Hey, Bree.
2 thumbs up.
Yep. My one and only, and she's going to learn everything from me at an early age. So the next generation better watch out for that one.
Good luck with that. All right, brother.
Hey, brother, I got to leave. I've got another meeting coming up on Zoom. So you take care. Have a great month and stay safe and be well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Happy trails, my brother. Happy trails.
Yeah.
Safe and healthy.
All
That's
right.
what
Thank you, Brother Mateev. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Next month.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.